right, go live, go live. What's up, everybody? It's Chris. Let me get a few of these things connected. We're going to go live for probably 30, 45 minutes today. We got a cool guest with us. I need to connect all these platforms. All right, we're live on Instagram. We got LinkedIn. Comment in there. Say what's up if you guys are watching. We got LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We are ready to roll. All right, what's happening, everybody? This is Chris with Dugout Mugs. If you've been paying attention this month, you know what we're doing. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, right? And I don't think there's too many other topics that are more important, especially in today's athletics or just the culture in general. You know, keeping your head on straight is a big deal. We got a guest today that's going to touch on some of that. I'm actually not even going to try to remember all the accolades. I'm just going to read you right here who we got coming on. Tom Golightly, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Intermountain Healthcare last year, clinical support psychologist, exclusively the Real Salt Lake organization of teams, MLS, NWSL, MLS, Next Proteins. Goodness gracious, Tom, this is insane. Graduated summa cum laude, University of Arizona in 2000, majoring in psychology, compiled PhD. It was at BYU forever, counseling psychology in 2007, almost 2 decades ago. A&M, Texas A&M's in there, 16 years as the assistant director at BYU athletics. Okay, I'm going to just bring Tom on in a second, but that's who we're dealing with today. Obviously, we're not bringing anybody that's just, here to hear themselves talk. This guy knows what he's talking about. And today it's touching on some spirituality, which I really dig. And I think it's super important. So for those who don't know who we are, because I know this gets shared a lot of places, we're Dugout Mugs. We take the barrel of a baseball bat and we turn it into probably the coolest mug on the planet, but I'm a little biased. But it is not about us today. It's about our guys over at R2 Cares who we're working with this month. You see the little ticker at the bottom down here. If you go to R2 Cares on all the platforms, you'll find Ronnie and the team. And if you order for Father's Day, if you're not ordering for Father's Day, I don't know what you're doing. But order through Ronnie's link right here, dugoutmugs.com/R2 Cares, right here as it's scrolling past. We're going to give proceeds back to the charity, and they go to a great cause. So I've had Tom waiting for a few minutes now, so I'm going to bring him on, and we're just going to jump right into it. Hopefully you got some takeaways from today. Please comment. I'm going to be going through the comments pretty frequently. So if you have questions about it, if you anything that sparks something with you, throw it in there. We'll answer it live. So that said, is it Tom Golightly? Is that correct?
Tom Golightly, yes. Just like it's spelled.
Just as it's spelled. So what's up, man? Welcome to the Dugout. Thanks for cutting out some time. I know you're a busy guy.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate you having me.
So what is this keeping you busy these days? You were talking a few minutes ago, but I figured let's just save the good stuff for the chat.
Well, we're in the thick of soccer season, right? The soccer calendar in North America is a little bit different than Europe. So we're not winding down while the football in Europe is winding down. We're just kind of mid-season stream here. So we've been going since about January. We're full on into this thing. So I get to work with our MLS team, our NWSL team, and our minor league MLS Next Pro team. And so it's busy keeping track of all the matches. And this week we got 2 midweek matches and 2 weekend matches. So
when you say you're talking about
Real Salt Lake.
Real Salt Lake. And
the Utah Royals is the NWSL team. And the MLS Next Pro team is Real Monarchs. So, nice. Yeah, it's been doing this about a little over a year now and was at BYU for 16 years before that. So, elite sports kind of been what I do and where I've kind of carved out my niche, so to speak.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going through the bio and I was like, man, I'm going to run out of time.
Well, thanks. That just means I'm older. I'm just getting old. That's what that means.
You're good. These are good. Tell not just me, tell everybody, whether they're watching it live or whether they're watching it later, what are you doing there? Like, what is your core role? Because the topic that we're talking about today is the correlation between like spiritual, mental health, focus, faith, base. I know you don't specifically put that into what you're doing, but you also don't not do that either, right? Like it plays a role. So tell me what you're doing over there.
So my role as a clinical sports psychologist is to help with mental health issues, but also to enhance performance. So it's not just taking away some of the struggles of everyday life, which has been what we've been talking about on this cast. But it's also to help people kind of live their best lives. How do we thrive in sport? How do I perform better? How do I kind of maximize what I'm bringing to the table? And as you kind of bring in the spirituality realm, how many times have you asked an athlete, what is your why? And so many athletes want to remember their why, play to their why, honor that big reason why they're doing their sport, why they do what they do. And I can't give you a percentage anecdotally, but there are, I would even say, a majority of people that throw in, there is a transcendent purpose to this. It's either for God, it's to inspire people to believe in something differently, to live in a way that honors my beliefs. And so there is something about sport that helps us tap into our higher purpose. And so many people include God and religion in that higher purpose.
Do you feel like that's been kind of suppressed more as of late?
That's a good question. I think in my individual meetings with people, it hasn't been, but I think
slightly different circles too, though, where you're at,
Exactly. But I think maybe publicly, I think it is. I think we're all trying to not be as out there with some of what we believe. I think athletes are trying to kind of understand their messaging, and their branding is very, very big because of social media now. It never goes away. Mm-hmm. So I think they are, I don't want to say milquetoast, but I want to say they want to be careful with their messaging. And so to not offend those that might not be religious or with political views, I think a lot of athletes. So
that's a whole nother interview.
Let me just keep it between the lines here so that I'm not controversial in any way.
Yeah, but you know what? If there's not a lot of research and facts out there that say it's not a good thing. Right. So like I'm a fan. I love to see, a faith in sports. Now it's not a deal breaker, right? I'm not that guy, but I love to see it.
Yes, there's some good research that talks about being intrinsically religious, where you really believe it. So you're not going to church to be seen, but you go to practice a religion. You're connecting to your higher power, to God. There's good evidence to show that is a protective factor for mental wellness. It helps you, it boosts you. And some of that is some of the psychology practice that comes along with it. Gratitude practice,
that's my
prayer, meditation. Those things are really practiced in religion. So it's really a good augmentation to and protective factor for mental wellness.
The gratitude one is one of my absolute favorites. I teach because I have 2 young kids, and literally I'll tell them daily, just be grateful for something, anything. I'll catch myself. I got to practice what I preach, right? I can't be that guy, but driving down the road, I catch a green light, gratitude. As simple as that is, it becomes habitual. Right. And I think it's, we talked on a previous, chat about a week ago, I guess it was, about how your brain's a muscle and you're training it accordingly, and the gratitude, I think, is probably one of the easiest ones.
And it's a skill, right? It's a skill. Right? And as long as we're kind of actively practicing that skill and developing that, it can be, that's actually a mood changer. It's an anxiety reducer. It's a powerful, powerful thing.
Yeah. So are there any specific, because again, there's a lot of people, that are going to probably catch this at some point, and not all of them are elite athletes. I like to reiterate that. What are some spiritual practices that, or beliefs, or what is a little takeaway that you believe factors into mental health and resilience?
I think one big key to resilience is being value congruent. So if I know what my values are and I can define them, that's kind of defining identity a little bit, right? And those values if they're tied to outcome, which we often do, everyone does. It's not just elite athletes. It's how much money am I making? How whatever it is, we kind of use these measures of how well am I doing in life. All of those outcomes are inconsistent. But if we base our motivation, if we base our commitment on value, that is actually consistent commitment, right? So what I would say in answer to that question, what are some of the things that we can do, is the things that are value congruent to you. If you find prayer or meditation or scripture study or whatever it is helpful, then be intentional about incorporating those things regularly, daily, that you should be hitting those things. If just as a relationship is important to me, I wouldn't think to not check in with my spouse. I value my marital relationship. I'm going to do that. Same thing with a religious or a spiritual relationship. If I want a relationship with God and I feel like that's important to me, what am I doing to strengthen that relationship? So I would recommend those things that are value congruent to you. I mentioned scripture study. I
Reflection.
mentioned prayer.
Reflect a little more
and
on what's important to you. Yeah.
Journaling, I think, is another good thing to do as you write.
That's a good point. I don't do that. I have been told that so many times. That's a good one, journaling.
So I think taking some time, and it doesn't have to be long. I think where people sometimes struggle is it feels like a chore. If it's starting to feel like a chore, be done with it. So I'm not saying hours spent that way, but 5 to 10 minutes, even if you're in the middle of a sentence and you're journaling and you're like, I'm done, be done. If you're reading scripture and it's feeling like homework, all right, be done. But just to have that time to connect and be value congruent with your decisions for just a few minutes a day, that's going to be huge self-care.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. That's good advice. That's probably why I resonate so much with the gratitude part. I've had a journey that we're not even getting into, but the gratitude that I have for so many things, I feel like it's almost subconscious now at this point. And it's not ironic that more things continue to present themselves that I'm grateful for. Right. You know how that goes.
Yes. And
the manifestation of it all, good
exactly.
or bad, that'll slide both directions.
I think that's the one of the bigger benefits of gratitude practice is it's what am I looking for now? If I know that I'm going to write something at the end of the day, what am I grateful for? Guess what you're doing throughout your day? You're looking at things to be grateful for. If you are trying to find bad, you're going to find the negative. You're going to find the critique. You're going to find the thing that might drag you down. So it is a little bit of flexing that muscle in a different way so that we're actually searching for the things that are going well.
Yep. I love that. For sake of time, I'm going to move on to this next one because we touched on it. It was about identity. Many athletes struggle with identity after sports, sometimes during, of course. How important is it to get them to understand that this is just what they're doing, not who they are, but also keep touching on why they're doing it? Because you touched on that in the last two things you mentioned. It's about identity and this is what you do. It's not who you are, but let's not lose sight of why we are doing it in the first place. What are your thoughts on that?
I think what's super interesting, especially around athletes, is if we think about identity and development, when are we developing that identity? Generally speaking, it's when we're teenagers. And so it's across the lifespan, we kind of figure out who we are and how we interact with the world through our activities as an adolescent. And for athletes, elite level athletes, what's happening when they're teenagers? They start getting noticed on huge levels. Mm-hmm. So before they even get to explore a bunch of different options for identity, they close on this one because they're being so reinforced for it, right? And so a lot of athletes that I work with haven't really developed an identity outside of that because they haven't had to. Life hasn't told them that they've had to do that, right? And so when injury occurs, when the end of a career occurs, it's like, this is all I know. This is who I am. And it's really, really kind of tough. This wonderful scene in Ted Lasso, if I can say this. I can't remember which season it is, but the character Roy Kent is kind of going through this transition away from sport. And he's like, this is all I know. This is who I am. And his girlfriend brings over his niece who doesn't say anything about sport and just describes him as this person. And it's almost a shock to him to hear that soccer player wasn't mentioned in that, right? So it's really about we tie those identities then to the outcomes, as I was mentioning before, whether that's wins or minutes or stats or whatever it is. So the more we can broaden that sense of identity, the better off we're going to be in transitions, the better off we're going to be in managing the ups and downs. I know Tess in one of the previous interviews, she kind of mentioned having a different relationship with outcomes, not to expect different outcomes, but to have a better relationship with them. Mm-hmm. This is part of it, that the outcome doesn't define me, that my process defines me more, and my relationships define me more, and what I like to do outside of sport defines me more than anything that is in sport. And it's a tricky piece psychologically, but tying it back to religion, a lot of athletes really believe that they have a relationship with God. And so sometimes helping them form that identity outside of sport is helping them really explore that. What does that relationship look like? Who are you vis-a-vis a higher being? And what can that look like? And what do you want that to look like as you move forward and maybe have more time because the demands of sport go away? And so I think that's a really, really important conversation, and to have a place where there's space for that conversation and time for that conversation can be really, really powerful.
Well, so a couple of things there, because you're talking about if this is all developed when in adolescence, right? Then the coaches, as we talked about, they're not crossing any lines, teaching a kid about this, that, or the other thing, right? Everybody has to be on pins and needles with that crap. But the parents, like, let's suppose we got a couple dozen parents watching this right now. What could they, should they, can they be doing without going too crazy to start implementing these types of things, right? Because I want people to have like takeaways, right? We can just chat, we can cut it up all day, have great conversation. But at the end of the day, like, I want somebody to say, oh crap, I could do that right now. That's what I'm really shooting for.
So this is really tricky. And sometimes I think parents aren't going to love this message a whole lot.
Tough.
But and here I am sitting in professional soccer, which is maybe the worst of the club sports, demanding time and travel, and baseball's not far behind. But I think what's really, really important is it's not necessarily the messaging where they get that self-identity that forecloses, is what we call it in psychology. It forecloses on athletics. It's much more just the time spent, right? So if you are constantly going year round in season and you don't have time to do anything else, and recent studies have been conducted that some of our youth athletes, preteen and teenagers, are putting in more hours a day than professional athletes at sport, really? Whether that's at team training, at personal training, at lifting, at private coaching, whatever it is. And so we kind of see that we're spending more and more hours doing this. As a parent, you have to infuse other things. It can't just be all sport all the time. But then we take a look at, let's go to club soccer. How many family vacations revolved around a soccer tournament out of town? How many moments are spent in, I'm going to skip this thing this weekend because I am going to go play in a tournament,
which is travel baseball too.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm just going to go. When I was playing in high school in the 90s, I played a lot of different sports, and what, my coaches didn't mind. You almost never see that now. So the other thing that we do with the travel baseball and the travel soccer is we're not practicing as much. We're playing more games. So instead of developing the skill, we're teaching them to attach identity to outcome in some ways. So training more, fewer matches, fewer games, more training, more skill development, and infusing time for other things is going to help someone develop an identity that's a little bit more well-rounded and help them through sport as they progress.
I'm probably going to clip that part up and repost it just as a short video, because I think that's a great point. there's several ways you could see, like, well, I won't get into the details, but exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
In and around sport. And the other thing, it's almost like countercultural, right?
Yes.
To what's going on right now and what you're suggesting, but it's like you got to rip the Band-Aid off to you got to reset the bone before it can get better.
Well, I think
what about rest?
Also,
what's that?
Well, just also exploring, why do we do that? Like asking yourself the question, why we do that. So many times parents are wanting the big payoff, right? They want a scholarship, they want a pro career, they want something like that. Just percentages, just
I was about to say that. Percentage wise, it's insane.
Exactly. It's like, do you want to develop a well-rounded person, or are you wanting to cultivate an athlete? Now, sometimes that's going to happen, and sometimes that just happens by selection, and it's not about the extra training or the extra coaching or the extra travel team. It's just going to happen if it happens. But putting that investment, there's some big potential side effects to that, and I think that's where it's being aware of and being intentional with your decision making as a parent around that.
My co-founder of Dugout Mugs, forever ago, when we met all the way back in 2016, one of the things he said that always stuck with me, and he was a very level-headed, intelligent human, and he said that this is their big leagues. Right? When you're going through college and you're going through high school and you're going through travel ball, like, this is your big leagues. Like, it's not going further than this. And to not reflect on that, I thought that was a really, now again, he went high up into A ball and then got cut and had to redefine his identity. Right. And from that came Dugout Mugs. Right. So he obviously found an outlet that, that we've run with ever since. But I thought that was a really profound thought process, is that being the parent, instead of this, if I have to see another little leaguer running around with a sliding glove in his pocket, I'm like, what are we doing here? $400 or $500 bats and you can't hit the ball. Like, what you're pumping up this insane mentality for these young kids versus understanding camaraderie, sportsmanship. I was around a kid the other day, and literally the only thing that mattered to him was winning. It was kind of I won't say anything bad about him, but like, it wasn't very becoming. And just the mentalities that are being pumped into these kids, it's wild, man. And I think it's going to be more detrimental. And imagine how much further they fall at the end if you've taken them up so high, right? That's just a farther distance to travel to hit your face on the ground.
Well, another example of this, I was just talking with my neighbor. He has a son that is playing high school football, just entering high school football in 9th grade. And they sat the 9th graders down and had an NIL meeting. And this is in high school. And that's something that they have to be aware of. If they want to be college eligible, they have to be careful about all of these things. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I was 14 years old. Like, I'm not sure how we've come to this place, but we've come to this place where the cart gets put before the horse, definitely, and it does lead.
I don't even think the horse can see the cart anymore.
Exactly, and it does lead to that fall, and just as you were talking about.
Is it different from your experience? Is it different in other countries? Is this a cultural thing for the U.S. predominantly, or is it across the board?
I think that's a very interesting question. I work with a lot of international players now, more so than I have before. And I would say from a football standpoint, like from a soccer standpoint, they're identified pretty early. So it depends on the country. Like, they might go to an academy, but they might just play sport, which then creates some different performance pressures when they get to the level. Here it's like, no, this is survival. It's not just my living. It's not just who I am. Mm-hmm. But for some, I think it's similar. I think we're seeing this similarly because there is so much money infused into the sport that I play, especially overseas. This is a big ticket.
They become almost godlike.
Yes,
over there, the Messis and the Ronaldos and guys like that,
Exactly. And that superstar in a level that only a few have achieved here in the United States, right? So I think it is very similar. It is kind of trickling down earlier and earlier, and it's really impacting the way that people behave. And it's not just in soccer. I've worked with professional athletes in a lot of sport in my private practice, and I see this in hockey. You see it in track and field. You see it really kind of ubiquitously across sport. So this is not a problem that is just unique to United States culture. It's, I think, kind of a worldwide thing. It's seen as a ticket, and there's so much money in it now, and everyone's trying to get a piece of that change.
So is it even possible to combat it? Or is it literally a grassroots, parents in the homes? And does that deflate a kid? Or because that's a tricky balance too. Are you what do they say? Never want to dim your kid's light, right? Are you taking away the dream before they're able to really dream it?
Well, that's kind of where getting back to like outcome versus process focus, right? What's the outcome that you're looking for? And if you're driven by outcomes, that is going to impact, and whether that's money or scholarship or wins or like whatever that
Now, are we
outcome
talking about the
is.
parents' desired outcome or the kid's desired outcome? Because those
Both.
can often be very different things.
Yes, I think that's both, and I think that's an interesting sometimes values conflict is what I would say between the parent and the child. But I think that has to be explored, especially as the child shows propensity to be elite. It's really important for the parents to be aware of what does this child want. Just because a kid is a lefty that can deal on the mound doesn't mean that kid wants to go to college and play baseball or go to the pros or do those things. And I think that's a worthy conversation. But I think what's really important is that we fall in love with the process. If we can teach our children to fall in love with the process, then it's fine if these outcomes come, and it's fine to dream big. I don't want anyone to not dream big, but it's really important that we don't define ourselves through those outcomes, that I'm a hard worker, that I can learn skills very quickly. I'm coachable. I give high effort. I'm resilient. I'm gritty. I can keep a goal in mind for a long time and sacrifice things to let go of that. All of those are great traits that are going to transfer outside of sport or really to anything. And so I think as we move away from, I need my kid to be the starter or be at this club or get this scholarship or make this much money for a return on my investment, if we're looking for outcomes, that's when we're starting to really push our children in a direction where they are going to be over identified with sport and in uncontrollable ways, because outcomes aren't always controllable.
Right. Oftentimes they're not.
Yes.
Because I was never an athlete on any level. I mean, I went through high school, whatever, but mine was business. I'm a businessman. I've had several businesses along the way. I've done some things. And it was kind of explained to me similarly, becoming a millionaire, let's say, it wasn't about the $1 million. It was becoming the person who could become a millionaire. Right. And I think that's falling in love with the process. It's the grit, the grind, the diligence, the thick skin, short memory, all the little things that create the person who can be the millionaire. Right? You're going to become the person who can become an elite athlete. It's like there's a few times recently. I love collectibles. Right? These are all guys that we work with, but I love collectibles, and it's funny to see some of these prospects come through the farm systems. And I remember one guy was Alex Kirilloff, I think it was, for the Twins. I think his second year, rookie, had a tough second year, quit. Now he's a realtor in South Florida. I'm like, probably the only realtor that can hit a ball 400 feet that I know of, right? and then yeah, it's just wild. It's just wild. So it's like I wonder if their win was making it, but I don't want to do this anymore, right? Or I don't know. It's really interesting. And then you got the lifers and the guys that just play until they probably shouldn't. and it's because that's probably tied to their identity in a lot of ways, not knowing when to walk away.
Exactly. And circling back to the religion and spirituality piece, like religion might be the ultimate delayed gratification, right? Like the reward we are seeking through religion is often something that comes in the next life or whatever. What you're doing with religion is learning process. It's learning how to be a human that's going to treat other humans well. And that's not always intuitive. That's not always easy. And so sticking with it. And I think that's part of what you're bringing up. And I love the way that's phrased. And we're learning how to become, right? And it's not about the arrival to anywhere. We're not ever going to totally arrive. But if we're always in the process of becoming and being aware of the things that can help through that process, and there are a lot of things along the way, religion being and spirituality being one of them, but sport being another, all of these things can teach us to how we can just be better people around each other.
Do good, be better, right? So the takeaway, do good, be better. I love it. I love it. There was I jotted a question I wanted to ask you on this because I love touching on this. And as you can see from the bags under my eyes, I'm not very good at it. Rest. Okay. Yes. Maybe it's the 2 kids, maybe it's the marriage, maybe it's the 3 companies, whatever the case may be. A lot of faith and there's a lot of emphasis on rest and renewal, right? And whether it be the physical benefits from it, mental benefits from it, or separation of self and sport, consistently, whether it be Sunday or whatever the case may be. What are your thoughts on like that, just general rest from a mental, physical, et cetera?
I think if you talk to any strength and conditioning coach, they're going to tell you that rest and recovery is a part of every conditioning program, right? What's interesting to me is that sometimes we're quick to discount that from the mental side of things. You need rest and recovery from the mental standpoint. And
big time.
And it's very, very difficult to justify that because we don't see it. We don't necessarily even feel it. But I know there are times, especially now that in pro sport, there are times when I'm working. I'll work 28, 29 days in a row. And I'll be driving home 3 days in a row thinking, wow, I'm way more tired than I feel like I should be after my day of work. And then I think back, oh, I haven't had a weekend in 4 weeks. It's
right.
Like, wait, okay, that's on
Ask
me.
Any mother of a newborn,
yes.
How important sleep is. You go one night without it, you understand shaking a kid. Like, I mean, yes. your mind loses it. Like you really do.
And I think that's where prioritizing and being intentional with that self-care. And I think the religious value around a day of rest is not just for religion, that there are a lot of mental and physical benefits to taking that break. Now, as a society, I think we moved away from that kind of thing. But I think it's really, really important that we incorporate that mental break. And even here at RSL, talking with athletes, like where can you take 10 or 15 minutes while you're here in the building, training, lifting, in video, all of the things that a pro athlete has to do. Where's the 10 minutes where you can check out for just that little brief amount of time, let yourself download and then refresh so that you can get the most out of your day. So it's not just about days of rest. It's about moments of rest and taking these little hits. And then at the end of the week, being able to take a little bit more. And then a couple of times a year, getting away, just total clean break for a week or two. That's going to be kind of the best self-care strategy that we can incorporate.
Do you, what are your thoughts on the social media side of that? Because a physical break versus a mental break, I feel the latter is more important in a lot of ways, because and again, I'm guilty, and that's why I know this, right? I'll catch myself and, I'm at least aware of it, right? But what are your suggestions specifically on social media from a mental break standpoint?
Well, I wish I had ground to stand on here. I probably scroll a little bit too much. I think all of us do, maybe a little bit, but I think you bring up a very, very good topic, and this is a hot topic. And I think this is actually part of the mental health issues that we're seeing.
Certainly is.
I don't think so. I know so. There's a lot of research that's supporting that. So this isn't just Dr. Tom Golightly pontificating here, but it's really important that we set boundaries around that and then unplug. I am so grateful, speaking of gratitude, that I was not in the dating pool or a teenager or an athlete in this era.
Correct.
Because it is constantly hitting them. And there's one thing that I see very consistently in every locker room that I've been in the last 6 or 7 years. Right after a match, someone's on this looking at who's commenting on what, right? And that can be a very, very tough thing. And it's I don't leave the game at the game. I'm hearing about the game, right? And I'm reading about what people are saying about me. And that's just in this little bit of work life, right? Now we have dating apps. We have all of these things that are constantly coming at us.
And the compound effect of them all.
Exactly. And we have to have times where it's like, I'm done with this today. I'm unplugging. I've got to find something else to do. And the people that I see that are able to have more discipline around that generally tend to be less anxious, less inconsistent with their mood, not as many mood swings. It's very, very important that we have the discipline to kind of maintain the boundary around that. And there are times when I think having someone else do that with us is going to be helpful. There's times my wife's like, you need to put the phone away. I know you're getting texts. I know work is hitting at you. She's like, you got to put that away. So it's like, actually, you're right. Let's go axe throwing, right? Like, let's do something that I'm not tapping into that world. It can wait. And 99% of the time, it's not a crisis that needs to be responded to right now. But we have to, with the world, our office following us, our lives following us, we have to find time to just put that away.
So that could lead into and we're coming up on 40 minutes, so I want to be respectful of your time as well.
Yeah.
That is one of the number one things that just kind of, it's cringy for me, right?
Yes.
Is the social side of it. And I got 2 young girls coming up into it and just watching the parents and then watching the kids be the parents. And it's just, anyway, it's cringy. For you, what are like 3 things that you see, and because of what you know, it just eats you up? You're like, you wish you could say something, but I don't know this person. I'm not getting in their business like that. But this is like one of those things, again, if we're talking about takeaways, what are a few things that, whether it be a parent or a coach or some kind of influencer in a young athlete or a young person's life, what are 3 things that you wish you could just smack somebody in the back of the head with and be like, guys, look what's happening right here in front of you? Like, what would that be? Because it'll give somebody something to look for.
So I think one of the biggest things is, we mentioned this back at the start, defining your values, knowing what is important to you and why it's important to you. And then if we know that, then I can be intentional with how I engage life. I can be consistent, like being disciplined and just I'm going to self-sacrifice a little bit, right? And so I know what to give up on. And then I also want to be mindful with my engagement. I need to be totally present in what I am doing. If I'm at work, if I'm at training, if I am in a rehearsal, a practice, at the office, whatever it is, I need to be there. I can't be there and be thinking about all of these other things. So that intentional, consistent, and mindful engagement is going to be really, really helpful for all of us. But it's got to center on.
But how do you identify that in a young person, though? Like, how does somebody see that and help them along that path?
I think obviously it's going to change for a kid, right? Like, especially depending on what age group you're working with. I think it's really important as this child starts to engage sport in maybe a more meaningful way. Around 5th or 6th grade is when I started looking around and realizing I'm faster. I can throw better. I can do all of these things. I can't do art, so I'm going to leave art to other people, but I do like sport. I'm going to kind of do sport, right? as they are starting to show that propensity, it's asking them what they want and then coming back and reviewing that. It's a dialogue about what they find important. And as the parent, it's to help empower them to engage sport in ways that are meaningful to them. And that's going to wax, that's going to wane. And some of what we learn through sport is sticking to it. So it's not that they come home and say, I want to quit. No, let's talk about why are you doing this? That's a good invitation that the child is giving you to kind of like talk to them about what they value and what they want. But it's got to be an open dialogue about how they want to engage sport and what they want out of it.
And be cautious on how they're perceiving you and your response to it. Oh, because the coach did this, the coach did that. No, maybe you're not paying attention to the mechanics, and that's why you're not pitching.
Correct.
Because the coach doesn't like you.
Or they can kind of say, I'm doing this because I feel forced. I think you'll be disappointed. I know how much money you sunk into this. I feel bad that I want to quit right now. Right. All of those are great conversations. Right. And too often, I think we try to just stick to it. The kid tries to stick to it. The parents are overcommitted to it. Like everyone is overcommitted to it. Right. And it's like, hey, let's take a step back and let's just have an open conversation about all of this. But that's part of the defining of values and that dialogue that's got to just kind
of just asking the kid better, like life, ask better questions.
Yeah.
Ask better questions. It's amazing how much better things get.
Yeah. Curiosity.
So you're asking the questions, talking to them. Why are we doing what we're doing? What is your thought on that?
Yep.
Just your perspective. Curious. What do you think you're doing this for?
Yep.
That's that's actually really easy to do. Who knows if you're going to get the responses you want? Maybe it doesn't work at all, but it's not a hard question to ask either.
But if your kid is saying, it's fine, I'm fine. It's like, okay, let me know if it's not, And the other question that you can ask if you're just getting that answer is, what are your 3 favorite things about sport right now? What are your 3 least favorite things about sport right now? And that might get you into the richness that you might are looking for.
I've done that. I've done that in business. What's going right? What's going wrong? What do we need to do different? Right? It's a simple question. Simple questions, and you'd be surprised with the answers you get. Yep. And if you ask with the intent to listen, well, that's just a life skill. Ask with the intent to listen, not just wait for your turn to talk, and hear what they're saying. Not just hear what they mean. Because sometimes they're not. I mean, they're not adults yet. Like conveying what they're meaning based on what they're saying. So also listen with the intent to hear them, not just to go through the motions of it.
Drop our agendas. I think that's the hardest thing. Now that my kids are finished with high school, it's like I can have an agenda for my kid, but I need to let go of that and just be curious about their answers and respond to it, what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I have 2 young ones, so I mean, it's good practice for me and good for me to hear. Yeah. Anything else? Any other final takeaways? Because like I said, I'm only gonna keep you for about 45 minutes.
No, I think that's about as good as I got. That's
Well, everybody who's watching, throw some comments in there. We're going to be answering. We're going to share this across a few different platforms. Tom, I appreciate everything, man. Thank you so much for coming here. Again, just as a reminder, we're doing it. R2 Cares. Let me find the link. There it is right there. So Father's Day, obviously y'all know what we do. And it fits great for Father's Day. If you got a baseball loving dad, or even not, I mean, somebody just likes cool stuff. We're turning bats into mugs. Like, that's kind of fun. And get it through Ronnie's link right here at R2 Cares. The proceeds are going back to the charity, helping all kinds of good people do good stuff. I mean, that's what we're about. The mission of Dugout Mugs is to celebrate and serve the heroes of the baseball community. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. We love touching on first responders, military, veterans. And in this month, we're talking about mental health. So, Dr. Tom, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm going to send you back off the stage, buddy. Everybody, thanks again. I appreciate all your time. I saw quite a few of y'all watching throughout. I'm going to share this across the platforms. Comment below. Share this if you think some of this content was helpful. Because at the end of the day, if literally one person sees this, hears this, acts upon it, and creates better ripples. And that's what we're trying to do. So until then, have an amazing rest of your week. Thank you for your time. And don't forget to drink from bats. Cheers.